Brucey.
Long time no see, Dan.
I
Yeah,
know, it's been a long time. When was the last time
it
we saw each other,
has.
Brucey boy? Like 2017?
Possibly. Yeah.
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 Thanks for joining me. You want to be famous, huh? I don't know if I can guarantee your level of fame will increase, but
Hey, I just want to
maybe
talk about
someday.
stories because I never get the chance to talk about these things.
Oh yeah, and I love part of this is really cool is, and I didn't think fully into it. I was just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna interview people. It's gonna be really cool. It's gonna
Uh
be
huh.
obviously probably some people that I know first. I've gotten quite a few people that I don't know them at all. They're strangers, and people
Mm,
want to come on and yeah, who people want to tell stories and talk about outdoor stuff and
absolutely, we do.
yeah,
There's
it's
there's
fun.
nowhere to do it since
No,
Midwest
yeah,
closed, and they don't have all those
they would have like live events and
show
stuff,
and
wouldn't
tell
they?
or whatever it was they had. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
they would
nowhere
have
to
like
do it, Pat.
panels of people on, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
I don't know if I ever really went to those. I should have. I hung around
I used
Midwest a
to
bit,
go.
but
I used to go every spring and fall and pick and choose, because they had a whole list of them. They had like 50, 60 people turn up. I did a few as
okay.
well, and they would give you store coupons for doing it.
Oh, nice. A little
Yes.
incentive. I don't
Yeah.
have that yet. Maybe someday.
Maybe.
I'm too poor on my New York City public school salary to be. Yeah, and just reconnecting with people. I hadn't talked to Lloyd in since he left.
Yeah.
I can't remember if he left before me or right around the time that I left too.
You
But
guys were
we
round
didn't.
about the right time, at the same time.
Yeah, I think it was
Yeah.
in within 6 months of each other.
Yeah.
He might have finished that school year and then he was done.
I think that's what he did. Yeah. Yeah. And that's
Mm.
when he was like he was taking on more stuff after that. I remember that.
We're talking
No.
about dirtbag stuff. Yes, not school stuff. See, this is exactly why I started this too. Yeah, I want to talk about
Yeah.
fun stuff, and there's not there's quite a few outdoor wilderness podcast stuff. There's not a lot of conversational ones. There's very much the polished storytelling,
Uh-huh.
this and that. It comes out like some of them are once a week or like once every other week or once a month. Their backpacker radio's good. They're funny, but they only
Okay.
talk about backpacking.
Ah.
That's pretty much all they talk about.
There's
They have like long distance
other types
backpackers
of
and
dirt bagging going
I
on
know.
as well.
I'm like, and there's not a lot of female hosted whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm gonna do that. There's really interesting people that nobody have ever heard about. There's right, and it's not just backpacking or there's
Yeah. People do.
bikepacking, there's
I was.
rafting, there's
Uh-huh.
van life, there's all these things, and I'm
It's
like,
fucking
it's
everything. There's people doing, and people are doing some amazing stuff, and they're just doing it because they want to
yeah,
do it, and they're not
right.
seeking anything else apart from the fact that they just want to do it.
They just want to
I was
experience it.
totally amazed at the stuff that people do, and
Mm-hmm.
they don't even talk about it. And you hear about the famous people like Anne Bancroft and
Mm-hmm.
what's his name, the guy up in the North Shore who does Mike McKinley and I forget his name, but he's written books and made movies and stuff, and he's not world renowned. He's just a
Yeah,
Minnesota guy, and
yeah,
yeah, it's pretty amazing. So
it is
yeah,
pretty.
and I think people do want to tell the stories because that's half the fun about doing it. Is you come back with a story, and every
Right,
time you tell it, it gets embellished.
right.
So it sounds better and better. So the more
You
times you
gotta
tell it, the better it gets.
you gotta live it again. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly.
And
Well,
yeah.
you
Right.
grew up in Scotland.
Yes.
Is it Aberdeen?
No. How I got into the outdoors. So I was born in that city, Aberdeen, and then my parents wanted to run their own business, so they bought a business on a small island called the Isle of Lewis, which is it's on the edge of the Atlantic. The next stop is Newfoundland. There's nothing in between. And I grew up there, and that's how I kind of basically got into outdoor stuff through scouts. And the older scouts in Britain are called venture scouts. So they're from like 16 to 21. And they kind of self-program. And we just did a lot of outdoor stuff, a lot of walking. up and down hills and moors and stuff. But we did a fair bit of camping, and we did stupid stuff like somebody donated 2 windsurfers, so we taught ourselves how to windsurf the really hard way. And Lewis is an extremely windy place, and we were getting catapulted in force 5 gales.
Oh my goodness!
We tried to learn how to surf on windsurf boards without the sail on them, and we tried to kayak and canoe in the sea and surf and all sorts of just stupid stuff. Because we were like 16, 17 years old. Nobody was telling us what we could or couldn't do. And we were really bad at all of it.
I can imagine 16-year-old Bruce out in some crazy wind and
I can't even
conditions.
imagine myself by then now.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
That's
and I'm still in
hilarious.
touch with some of those guys as well. Facebook was a good thing for reconnecting with those guys. One guy is one of the top guys at a company called Vodafone, which is like a massive cell phone company in Europe, and he owns a castle. Another
Ooh.
guy.
I feel like I was going to say, I feel like I recognize the name of that.
Vodafone? Yeah, you'll have seen it. They sponsor Formula One cars and all sorts of stuff, and their own football shirts and stuff. Another guy, he basically runs the only construction company on the island, and he owns a very large yacht and sails it around the island all the time. There's people just doing all sorts of weird stuff, but they're all kind of still doing crazy outdoor stuff as well.
Yeah.
So that's how I got into that, because there was nothing really interesting to do unless you did something outside, or you drove a car in endless circles around the town, or you just became an alcoholic.
Yeah.
So,
Take your pick.
or a mixture of all 3 of those things.
Or mix it.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where I started out, was on that little island, and then I tried a couple of other things. Like my parents owned a small family hotel with restaurant and bars and stuff like that, and so I went into catering. I went to college for catering management for 2 years, and after a year I decided I thoroughly hated it. And then I got onto an outdoor course in Edinburgh, and that led me to do a degree in outdoor education in Glasgow.
Okay.
And that's when the slippery slope of dirtbagdom started.
Yes. What year was that, Bruce?
Do
you remember?
1988, I went to do the course in Edinburgh at a little college called Telford that doesn't exist anymore. And then in 1989, I got onto the degree course at Strathclyde University, and that course doesn't exist anymore. They stopped it over 10 years ago now, I think, as well. And so I did that degree, and then I graduated, and my very first job was doing a thing called the Duke of Edinburgh's Award, which is it was started off by Prince Philip, who was one of the original students for the guy who started Outward Bound in Scotland at Gordonston. So Prince Philip was one of his first students, and that's how Outward Bound started. And then Prince Philip took that idea, and instead of people going off and doing expedition courses and stuff like that, it was like home-placed stuff, and they would do things like volunteerism, learning skills, like, you could learn anything from music to, I don't know, playing sports and stuff like that. And then they had an expedition phase of it as well, which is like at different levels. You started with like 1 overnight, 2 overnights, 3 overnights, 4 overnights. And so I was running that for a private school in Glasgow, and I did that for 2 years. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. We need more schools like that should exist. Instead, we're going the other direction and shutting things like that down.
Scotland, they're just coming up with a law that says outdoor education has to be part of the curriculum in schools. Finally.
Yeah. Finally.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's not finalized yet. I have a buddy I used to work with, and he's kind of headlining that. He was speaking in Parliament last week about it. A guy called Nick March. So yeah, things that happen. Yeah, Scotland's always a little bit more progressive than the rest of Britain.
Yeah.
God knows how they're going to get the money to fund it all, but they're going to try to, at least anyway.
Yeah, I feel like that's probably a big reason why a lot of it shuts down or doesn't go through, or
it's the
or
first
whatever,
thing.
or we outsource right to Outward Bound and Knowles and all these other organizations.
Yes, it might go that way. A lot of the stuff in Britain has been, or in Scotland, was kind of privatized. So basically, we used to have a whole system. Each of the school districts in Britain used to have at least one residential outdoor centre out in the hills in Scotland. Strathclyde, which was the biggest local authority in the whole of Europe, had many of them, and I worked at a couple of them. But then they ran out of money. Money became really short in the late 80s, early 90s, and then they started shutting these down. But then the principals or the staff at those places started to take them over and run them as kind of semi-private businesses, where the schools would pay for them to run outdoor programs for them. And that's the way it's kind of gone, except some of the local authority got back into paying for most of it again, and now they're withdrawing from it again, and now they're going back into it again. So it swings because of how much money they have. And it's always the first thing to go. So as soon as they're short of cash, outdoor education, we can't pay for that anymore. And it's always the first thing to go.
Sad. Yeah, that was the program that I worked for before River's Edge, the Department of Corrections through the state of Minnesota. It's state funded. They were around since the 60s, I want to say, though.
Okay, yeah.
Like it was a boys' camp, like a boys' working camp, but just innately in the wilderness of northern Minnesota, very remote. And then added, I think, honestly, it wasn't even like, oh, it's an outdoor program. It just was like, this just is what it is because of where you are located. You have to cut and chop wood for the winter to stay warm.
Yes.
You don't have a choice. And then it's just culturally, that's what it was. You would hunt and fish and hike, and that's just what it was. It wasn't like outdoor programming. It was just, that's what it was, right? And then I think as the years went on, it was kids from the cities and kids from all over the state that didn't culturally live that way. And then so it became this outdoor programming, program for all these other kids too, not just naughty kids in the north that were sent to the boys' work camp.
Yeah, that's what it tends, from my experience back home, because this is a long time ago since I did that formal outdoor ed stuff. I mean, it's like I've been over North America for 20 years now, so it's before then. And that it was going to the naughty kids get to do all that stuff because they can't sit in the class all day long. But it's for everybody, and it's extremely valuable. And everybody knows it is. Everybody who studies education and social and personal development goes, being in the outdoors and doing stuff like that is so worthwhile for you to do. But then it's the first thing that disappears when people get short cash.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, but we'll make you sit down in a classroom all day long.
We expect you to sit there and be quiet.
Yes.
Otherwise, you'll be sent to the dean's office. And I'm like, let's go run some laps.
Yes, there we go.
Some jumping jacks or, some fresh air outside.
Have you got Ultimate Frisbee team going yet?
No. I never was big into that. That I'm no Sky Davy.
Yeah, this is true.
I hope Sky listens to this because we've dropped his name about 5 times now. Someone should probably alert Sky to the podcast.
There's some logarithm somewhere it's gonna pop up on one of his social media feeds.
Some algorithm, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you got your degree. What was one of you were working and?
Yeah,
Did
so
you use the degree to like work in, and then what was your
no,
from?
dirt baggishness kind of started to take over,
I
and
was gonna
I'd
say, what
used
was your first personal trip that you remember that was like pretty epic, or like
first
you still
personal
think
trip.
about? Yep.
Um, well, after I did the course in Edinburgh, I got a there's a thing in Britain that used to be called Camp America, where it was an organization that would be a feeder organization for camp counselors at kids camps in America. So I did that for that summer, and that was my first trip away, pretty much on my own doing something. It wasn't really outdoor stuff. I was just had a cabin full of teenage boys, and I helped herd them and take them to activities and made sure they didn't sneak off to the girls' cabins at night. And it was hilarious. And then
That
that
sounds
kind
really
of got
funny.
it was fantastic, yeah. And that kind of got me into going away doing stuff, kind of getting a job that would pay for it, and then be somewhere really good. And then the next summer after that, I worked for a company in Britain that worked with school groups, and they took kids away to do outdoor activities. So I taught climbing and orienteering in the north of France. And the reason why I got the job was because it was in France. Not because it was climbing, not because of orienteering. I just didn't want to be in Britain. I wanted to go off and see places. And I could
Yeah.
climb and I could orienteer, so that's what I did for a summer. And then the next summer, I wanted to go to one of their top camps, which is in the south of France, going canoeing, 3-day trips down a river called the Ardèche, which is at the bottom of a kind of 700-foot limestone gorge. Spectacular place, and just surrounded by limestone cliffs and a beautiful river. And it was, 70, 80 degrees every day for 2 months, and we ate bread and cheese, and when the kids weren't there, we drank lots of wine and beer.
I knew that was
And
coming.
I lived in a tent in the woods beside this more structured camp where, they had a big cafeteria and they had a bar on site.
Ooh,
So
that sounds like a dream.
the teachers could drink, all the staff could drink, and the kids would be there as well. And they put on activities in the evening where we played all sorts of stupid games around the woods. And then at a certain time it got cut off, and then we just basically went to the bar. And the kids
Yeah.
would be there dancing to a DJ.
Yeah. With all their
It was
teachers
like-
drinking. I love that.
Absolutely nuts. And then, but during the day we were canoeing, and we would like take the kids running up and down the gorge. Just say, okay, who wants to come with me? I'm going to run up. Everybody who wants to run with me. And you take a whole stream of kids with you, and you'd be running up a 700-foot gorge and all sorts of stuff. And the staff loved it.
Yeah.
And, but you were basically just a dirtbag teaching canoeing,
Yeah.
and floating down a river in a beautiful place, nominally talking to kids, trying not to tell dirty jokes and try to keep it clean. And it was like,
Yeah.
yeah, as long
That sounds
as you
great.
would- as long as they all got back alive, nobody really
You were good.
cared.
That was
Yeah.
your only job responsibility. Keep them alive. No
Pretty
dirty
much.
jokes, no swearing.
Yeah, but we ran a good show as well. I mean, it's like we had lots of safety. We were canoeing up to Class 3 rapids, and we were
Okay.
so there was lots of safety involved. There's lots of throwbacks, people standing on rocks and making sure kids are okay, pointing them the right way, teaching them actual real skills.
Yeah.
But it was like, it was like a camp for everybody, no matter whether you were a kid or a teacher or a staff member.
That's awesome.
Yeah. but
Is
it
it
was a
still
lot of
is it still in existence?
The
Is it still
company
there?
is. The company
Okay.
is. I. The camp that I worked at isn't. It's gone.
Okay.
But they still do stuff. Yeah. But it was a private company. It wasn't like a semi-autonomous government body or something. It was a private company.
Yeah.
They were there to make money.
Yeah.
So they obviously change how they make their money, I think. But they still do it. The company still
Yeah.
exists.
Is
So I
that
did
where
that.
you? Yeah, go ahead.
So I did that for 3 summers, and then I graduated. And then I got into the Duke of Edinburgh Awards stuff, but that was really good. But I was really getting into my whitewater kayaking as well.
I was gonna say, is this because you're a pretty phenomenal paddler? Is this sort
No.
of where? Yeah, you are. I know. You know.
I was
you're
okay.
You're around guys and you're around gals and people that are probably extreme. But
I was
yours-
around people who were a lot better than me.
of course, but still, like, anyway, I was gonna ask: is this sort of where your love of paddling
Yeah.
sort of
So
started?
I started off as a climber. So when I went to college, that course in Edinburgh, they did a lot of climbing. We had a climbing wall in the college, and there was lots of climbing areas, crags around. So we did a lot of hill walking, or trekking and camping and rock climbing. So I got into climbing. I had all my gear, and went to Strathclyde in Glasgow, and I was still into climbing, but there was people on my course. There was people interested in everything. We had sailors, we had climbers, we had proper mountaineers. You know, they weren't just climbing up a small crag. They were going big stuff. And we had whitewater kayakers. We had kayak surfers, all sorts of stuff. So we got into everything, and we did courses on those things. We got instructor qualifications, or trained to get qualifications in all of those things. And I got into my best buddy, who turned into my best buddy, Dougie Arnott, was into whitewater kayaking. So we went kayaking quite a lot, and I took him climbing, he took me kayaking, and I decided, after a long time going, I really don't like falling off of cliffs. And water's definitely much softer.
It's a little softer, yep.
Yeah. So when things go wrong going climbing, it can hurt. And when things go wrong kayaking, you just get wet. You got a dog.
Yeah, I've got
Aww.
two. He
Look at
likes to
that.
make an appearance on all of the podcasts.
What's his name?
This is Teddy.
Hey, Teddy.
Teddy boy.
So I got into kayaking through Dougie, and probably what turned out to be my first, outside of that working in the summer stuff, my proper kind of expedition was whitewater kayaking, straight out of college. Dougie paddled with another bunch of guys who were a lot better than us guys at college, and they were looking for some other people to go on a trip to Norway. And Dougie said, I'll take my buddy Bruce. Bruce, do you want to go? Yeah. And I got there. I couldn't roll my kayak around. I couldn't get right back up again. I'd been trying for years, never made it. Couldn't do it. One instructor basically said, you're just too fat.
Oh!
Fuck off. And so it's like, so I just determined, and those guys taught me to kayak properly while we were doing class 3-4 stuff in Norway.
Yeah,
And
you really learn on the job there.
Oh my, yeah, and those guys were good. They were older. There was a bunch of young guys, and we were in our early 20s. There was like 4 of us, and then there was like 4 of these older guys, and they were professionals. Most of them were dentists in Scotland, and they also went kayaking, and they had all the gear, and we came along and we had all our stuff, which was begged, borrowed, and stolen. And my wetsuit was, I paid for it, but the guy I got it off of stole it.
I don't. Who's the winner of that deal?
I think I did. My waterproof jacket I found. My life jacket I stole from the place in France in the summertime. I just took a life jacket back home with me.
Nice.
I paid for the paddle for the Norway trip. I went out and yes, and it was
Bought a good one.
hundred bucks. And it
Yeah.
was like, yes, I have my own paddle.
Bought a nice one.
And I borrowed a kayak from Doogie's work because he worked for a local government doing outdoor stuff, and I borrowed one of their stock kayaks. And it was this horrible, horrible boat. And one of the other guys, he took two boats, and he said, "Here, use my other boat," which I eventually bought from him and paid him in installments when we got back to Scotland. So that's the stuff that we had. But these guys just basically taught us. We had 2 vehicles and a trailer, and we drove around Norway for 2 weeks with an out-of-print guidebook. This was before. Norway is now a huge paddling destination. So this was before that. This is 1993. And we had video cameras. We made a video. I'll send you a link to the video.
I
Oh
was
my
going to
God,
say, I want to
it's
see this.
It's ancient. It's definitely not high
Oh,
definition.
I'm super interested.
And we just went camping, and we kayaked all day, every day. We just drove around searching for rivers in this out-of-date guidebook, and just drove around. We got up as far as Trondheim and down to Bergen, and yeah, that was my first proper trip, and it was brilliant, absolutely fantastic. And then it was like, I am doing at least one trip a year every year for the rest of my
Were you
life.
pretty hooked? You didn't? Did you even?
Absolutely.
Probably didn't even think about it when you just were like, yeah, let's go, let's do it. And you,
Well-
I'm assuming, didn't anticipate that you would fall this much in love with it.
No, and in fact, one of the older guys, a guy called Paul Stone, who is now this top dentist in Scotland. The guy's a multi-millionaire.
So random. These guys are dentists, and then they just like
I
paddle
know.
around.
Yes,
What?
they just knew each other, and I don't know. But Paul was sitting in an eddy on a river, learning to roll, and Paul's trying to teach me, and he's such a nice guy, and he's like, you can see I've got enthusiasm, and he goes, "You wait until you get the bug," and I go, "Oh, I've got the bug," and he went, "Not yet, you haven't. You're getting there." And so we did that trip, and then I got back. Dougie decides he's going to paddle. He's going to get paid to paddle for the rest of his life. So he applies for a job in Zimbabwe to become a kayaking videographer for raft trips on the Zambezi River. And he gets that job. And I was like, I'm so jealous. You're getting paid to go kayaking? And the Zambezi was out of my league. And Doogie's off. And I saw him when he came back, and he had all this video footage. And I'm going, that is unbelievable. So I decided I'm going to be a raft guide. So I applied for a job as a raft guide. And it took me two attempts to get it. And I eventually got it. And I just went, forget this. I'm going to Austria, and I'm going to be a raft guide. And I went off to Austria and worked for a company, and they paid absolutely peanuts because they were training us. They gave us all the equipment, really top level teaching, and you got an official license from the Austrian government that said you're a raft guide. In fact, you were a Bootsführer. I had a Bootsführerschein Class B, which means a Class B boat captain. I was licensed to captain barges down the Danube Canal.
Wow, Captain Low.
So we learned shipping law and everything in German.
Yeah.
And the test was in German, and I couldn't speak German. We had to learn everything verbatim.
Wow. Crazy.
And if you didn't pass the test, you were out of job and you had to leave Austria. So we all were like, you've got to pass, we've got to pass, we've got to pass. And they put us in a house. There was like 20 of us in like a 5-bedroom house. So you're sharing. I shared a double bed with Dougie Arnott. And another
you
guy
weren't best
called
friends
Hugo.
before, you are now.
Oh my God, yes. And there was this, and they fed us at the company. We did all cycle to 3 miles to get to the raft base, and they'd give us breakfast and lunch and dinner at the raft base, and then we'd all go back. and do that. But we paddled all day, every day, training to be raft guides. I don't know how many times we went up and down that river. We swam every rapid. And this is in glacial water at the start of the season when it's still snowing and everything. And they toughened you up and they trained you. And I loved every moment of it. Absolutely. Fantastic. And it was like, I don't care where I slept. I don't care what I ate. I dreamed in rafting. I remember the sensation of being on land and having the sensation of I was still going over waves.
Wow.
And it was like lived and breathed the whole thing.
You think the bug was with you then finally?
I think I finally got it. Yeah.
You think, and then you were like, that's what he was talking about.
Yes, I kind of did. I do remember that what Paul said to me has popped into my head many times over the years. He's gone, you wait until you get the bug. And I go, no, finally know what you're talking about. Yeah. And and then there was other guys I was at college with, and we did the same thing. So there was a whole bunch of us who were paddling together at that college. And they had a kayak club, and they had the gear, and we used the gear and started buying our own stuff, or stealing it, and getting little bits and pieces of it to get together. We basically spent every weekend on the water. So I did 3 years at the college, so there was like the 2 years below me of people who got into boating. And they're all over the place now. There's guys in New Zealand, there's guys still in Africa, there's quite a few over here in North America, and then the guys I was rafting with were all of the same thing, and they're all over the world as well. And every once in a while you get in touch with each other and say, hi, oh, you're still alive. And everybody had the bug, and that's what we all did. It was like, and we would raft work all day long. We would raft on a couple of trips, and you'd do like 30 miles all day, where you're just paddling and shouting at people and having a laugh and playing games on the water. And then we would kayak at night. We were just like, okay, who's going? And we were just like, the company gave us a vehicle and a trailer, and we just loaded up with stuff, and we would either do more raft stuff and just do all the stupid stuff that we weren't allowed to do when we were working, or we'd just go take our kayaks and we would go. And days off as well. Were called holidays.
Paddle.
We had 1.5 days off a week, and you would load up with whoever wanted to go kayaking, and you'd go visit Germany or Italy or Switzerland or stay in Austria and just like paddle. And that's all day, every day for 4 months.
Wow.
Yeah. And you didn't care. You'd go off, get on those days off, you'd be sleeping underneath a tarpaulin. There was 3 of us. A really good friend, Gary, who's also from Scotland. He was one of that group of kayakers. And then another older English guy, Slim, John Kavanagh. And it was our day off the next day. So we loaded up, I think it was Slim's car, with our 3 kayaks, and we drove to Garmisch, because they had an English-speaking movie house there. And we drove to Garmisch, and we paddled the local river that night. No, was it? No, that day. So we left the night before the morning, and we drove there, and we paddled a river called the Loisach, which was just this rocky ditch, and it was hilarious. And then we went to the movies. Then we went to the club. Absolutely, I have no idea how drunk we were. No idea. But we weren't planning to go to the club. But I do remember we went to the club.
Somehow ended up there.
And
Someone
Gary,
thought that would be a good idea.
Yeah, Gary didn't pack anything for going out. He's wearing his wetsuit boots that are soaking wet from being on the river. And he's squelching in. And obviously they said, no, it wasn't. He had his sandals. He had his Teva sandals. And said, no clothes, no open-toe shoes. And then he went back and got his wetsuit boots.
Oh my God.
To the club. And then we slept in a picnic lay-by park bench, and we woke up, and we had to get to work that morning, and we woke up, I don't know what time, but it was raining. We'd been sleeping in the rain on the benches, And we
Oh
just
my
jumped in
goodness.
the car and we drove to work.
Haul ass back to work.
2 cans of Red Bull. One for the morning, one for lunchtime.
Oh my goodness. Made it work. Did you make it back in time?
Yeah. Yeah, that was the rule. Never be late for work. Ever, ever, ever. And I'm sure it's like there's a few people going to watch this and go, I am never taking a guided river trip in my life, because at least 2 or 3 raft guides would still be drunk from the night before on any given day on any given trip. And you had Red Bull and you had sunglasses.
Yeah. If I see the Red Bull, I'll be like, what were you doing last night? I have some questions for you before I get in this raft.
One guy got really pissed. He was late. We used to go to this town called Hofgarten. There was a bus tour that we used to take, Kontiki buses, and our company had the contract to take these people rafting when they were in Austria, and these guys would send us like 6 buses a day. We would do a few hundred people, all Australians, Kiwis, New Zealanders, and they were on a tour around Europe, and they were basically getting drunk in different bars in different countries every night, and they would go visit some sort of nice place in between. And so people would arrive and they wouldn't even know what country they were in. And we'd take them rafting. And then we would go and party it up with them afterwards. But Hofgarten was like nearly 2-hour drive away. So the rule was, if you were in Hofgarten, we'd all meet at the car at this time. If you're late, tough luck. We're going, because we ain't going to be late because of you. One guy was late once. And the rule was, and this guy was one of the hard followers of the rule. He was like, no, never be late, never be late. And he was late.
And he was late.
And he had to get a taxi. He spent a week's wage on a taxi to get to work.
Shit.
And he was late. The boss was not happy. But my God, this guy went off on all of us. Why didn't you wait for me? Hey, you know
You know the rules.
You know the rule. And I remember that morning, I woke up in my sleeping bag in a hedge at the side of the parking lot that the car was in, because there was no way I was going to be late for the car. So I was at the car. In a sleeping bag, in a hedge. Oh, it's time to go.
Just in a ditch.
And
Nice.
you took your pre-placed can of Red Bull and you drank that on the way to work.
And there you go. You're all
And
set.
there you go. Yeah, so
Nice.
I did that for 3 summers, but they left a huge impression. Oh my God, yeah.
Sounds like it.
So that was my first. When was that? I went to become a raft guide there in '95, and I did my last full-time season. I went back again for another half a season a few years later, but I left there in '97 and did a whole load of paddling. But I also did other things in between as well. So that was just the summertime.
I was going to say, what were you doing in the off time, not the summer, the rest of the year?
Just more other stupid
Just working.
stuff.
Yeah.
So the first year I got on one of the guys for one of the other companies in the town, a German guy called Clemens Mackheilek, because he's part Scottish. He has a Mac in his name, so he's like part Scottish. He lives in Canada now, still a really good friend. So he wanted to go and do a raft race on the Zambezi River in Africa. And I was like, and my buddy Dougie and another buddy, really good friend from that Norway trip, Johnny, was over there as well. I was like, I want to go see those guys. I'm on that trip. So, but it was a proper raft race. It was fully sponsored by Camel cigarettes and
Random.
Yeah, and J&B whiskey. So huge, massive deal. I mean, they had video cameras, and it was people from all over the world. There was proper teams with sponsorship, and there was us. So I rafted for Germany.
Hey.
Clem was the only German on the team. There was me and
That was
another guy
rafting for
called
Germany.
there was me and another guy called Alan Burt. were Scottish. There was an English guy called Dickon. There was a Dutch guy called Hendry. Oh no, there was another German guy, Arndt Schaftlein, who is one of the earliest versions of a professional kayaker. This guy was a phenomenal kayaker. But we went on this raft trip, and we trained for a whole summer. We were up at 6 o'clock in the morning, rafting down rivers at 6 o'clock in the morning every week, 3-4 times a week until we left. And we left in September. We flew to Africa, and I was there for a month, and we did this raft race, and it was like every other day would be down the bottom of the gorge doing a slalom race or down river race. I'm a world champion of raft surfing, which is
raft surfing.
You get this big ass wave, and you get a raft, and you get on the wave with the raft. The wave is big enough; it just holds the raft. And the wave on the Zambezi that we did it on is called Oblivion.
Whoa!
And it's a it's a huge wave, and you just sit on. You're on a bucking bronco. You're just holding on. And they filmed this, and they had the raft that stayed on the wave for the longest amount of time won the competition. And we won the competition.
Way.
I had a gold medal and everything. We had a presentation, the whole works.
That's incredible. Do you have video of this too?
It's on a video somewhere. Yeah, I saw it. The last time I saw it was a couple of years ago. And,
oh my goodness. I have so much of your content to watch now, Bruce. I'm so excited.
It's really old and it's really bad. So I got onto that, and then I got a job at a ski hill that first winter in Austria. I was pretty much, my buddy, who was another raft guide from one of the other companies, Pizza, he got me the job. He spoke English. He vouched for me. Pizza was the only other English speaker there.
Pizza?
Pizza. Do you want to know how he got his name?
Yes. Tell me the story.
So apparently he was dropping some friends off at the end of the season at the local airport, and they had time to kill, and he was hungry. So they went to a pizza place, and he got 2 pizzas. He put them together like a sandwich, and he ate 2 pizzas.
Like a full-on, 12-inch, 15-inch, big 20-inch pizza?
Yes, probably one of the bigger sizes. And that's how he got his name, Pizza.
That's fitting then, I guess. What else do you call him at that point?
Well, I saw him we went to a hamburger place once. He finished 5 hamburgers in one sitting. And he wasn't
it could have just as well have been hamburger than pizza.
Yeah. He just happened to eat the pizzas before the hamburgers.
He had a hollow leg, huh? Wasn't a fatty.
No, he wasn't. No. So he got me the job, and I worked at this ski hill just putting T-bars under people's seats all winter long. And they have a lift union, whereas so it's a proper union for lift workers, ski lift workers, and you worked 3 days on, 1 day off, and with your union membership card, you got 2 free tickets at any ski resort anywhere in Austria.
Nice.
So I had another buddy who worked in another town, another raft guide, English guy called Rob Hind, another fantastic kayaker. And he had a local girlfriend, so he stayed for the winters. And he had the car. I had the lift tickets. Every day off.
That's all you need.
He'd turn up at the house with the car, and I would go. Yeah.
Nice.
And so that was that winter. The next winter, I went to India rafting. The raft company I worked for had a connection with an Indian company, and every year they would nominate a couple of people to go. So I asked, can I be that guy? And eventually my boss said, sure.
Yes.
And I went to work for them. I lived in a tent on a beach on the side of the Ganges River. And beautiful. And everybody thinks the Ganges is filthy, but not in the mountains. So we were right in the foothills of the Himalayas. The other side of the river was a national park. We went tracking. Me and another British guy came over. Ashley Gowers came with me, and we went together. And we would go tracking leopards. on the beach on the other side. So we'd have to go across there and we'd collect wood for their campfires from the national park. And there would be all sorts of animal prints on the beaches, and you just follow them. And one day there was leopard prints. So we went, where'd this leopard go?
Let's
see if we can
track it.
And they fucking, yes. They had all sorts of stories of leopards around there. Oh my God. And there was
Crazy.
elephants and everything. It was really, really cool.
It's like another
So-
world.
Oh, totally other world. Oh my gosh. I would go back to India at the drop of a hat. But it's not for everybody. So many stories. We're just like, you could just sit at the side of the road and be entertained. Just
Yeah.
stuff happens. Yeah, also cobras. The first time I saw a king cobra snake, it was dead in the middle of the road. Thing was
Weird.
like 8 feet long and about
Whoa.
that thick, and it was flat, and it was a piece of leather. But that was beside our camp where we were. And there was one day we were cleaning out tents because the customers would arrive. We'd have really nice posh, big canvas tents for people, and there was proper spring beds. And they had bottles of water and stuff like that. We even had jerry-rigged in the jungle hot water shower facilities.
Nice.
Indians know how to make stuff out of nothing. Absolutely nothing. So they made, they had a water boiler, they had a spring where we dammed it up, we had a hose pipe came down, filled up the hot water boiler, which was just a metal box with a fire under it, and then that would get pumped off into showers in the jungle. Brilliant.
Wow.
So anyway,
Yeah,
we
that
were
is
cleaning
brilliant.
out tents after one group left. I don't know. It looked like a really poisonous snake. It was red and black, and it was in a corner. And one of the local guys said, get it out. So he just like turned the tent upside down and knocked it
Shook.
out, sort of. Yeah, and kicked it into the river. And then they were all at the back, look at the silly snake in the river. The thing started to swim right back at it. And we were like, run!
Oh shit.
And it was like, get the hell out of here. And then there was another night we woke up and there was bear prints. So obviously not grizzly bears, but they have bears up there. I had no idea what kind. There was bear paws between the tents down to the river and disappeared. The thing must have swum across the Ganges River to the national park on the other side.
Huh.
And
Crazy. All the
and
animals.
Then there's the dead bodies, because
Oh fuck.
how do
yeah.
Hindus deal with their dead? They cremate them.
Yeah.
And if your body, your remains are put into the Ganges River, you go straight to nirvana. You miss out all the reincarnation levels. You go straight there. So that's what happens to people in all the local villages. So they have cremations at the side of the river, and then they push everything in the river. Not everything gets burnt properly.
Yeah.
So there are a few, not lots, but a few. For the time I was there, certain places where things were,
Yeah.
and sometimes you discovered new ones. So we had one guy which was called the Swimmer, and I don't think this body had been burned at all. It was just dumped in the river. And
Yeah.
it was still whole, and it was on a rock, and it was facing upstream, and the waves made it look as though he was swimming up the river.
Because he was moving around. Yeah.
And he was a tourist attraction. Be pointed out on the waves.
Oh, my
And here
goodness.
we have Indian swimmer, Olympic swimmer, and training.
Oh my goodness. That's wild.
I was safety kayaking one day, and I popped into this really nice eddy, waiting for the rafts to come down, finish the wrapper and come down to me, and I'm just floating in an eddy, and it's recirculating. I'm floating right up the sandbank, and the sandbank is just about head height with me in the kayak. There's a skeleton with his face turned towards me as I float past him. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm out of here, bye!
Yeah.
Yeah, and various places. There was another guy who was like, when I first got there, another raft guy, local guys, pointed up to me. He says, "Go to the front of the raft. There's something I want to show you. Keep looking under the water, and a face appears. You know, like in the Lord of the Rings, the dead marshes, where the face, like that."
Oh my goodness. That's wild. I was not anticipating any of this. I mean, you say dirtbag stories.
Yeah.
Who has dirtbag stories with dead bodies floating in the Ganges?
So the guy who did the driving for the skiing, Rob, so he'd worked over there for a different company, and he was at the camp upstream from us. And the year before, they'd been asked to search the river for dead bodies from a car crash that had happened. And so the Himalayas, so the road is like way up there on the edge of a cliff. And these car crashed, and some cars had rolled down into the river, and so they were asked to go and find the bodies. So they were kayaking and rafting down, picking up bodies out of the river.
Damn.
We didn't have anything that bad. We had some other things though, like all of those bodies. But we would go visit So there was this connection definitely with the town I worked in Austria. It's full of raft companies, and there was quite a few British guys there. And everybody wanted to travel and go to different places and do bigger and better stuff in other places. Even though Austria was really good, you could make money in Austria, and then you could go to places like India where it's cheap as chips, and you could just be there all winter, living a dirtbag life. Or working from, like the raft company I worked for, I got paid 50 a week or 50 a month. They fed and watered me and did everything. You know, I got sent on a trip to the Taj Mahal, and it didn't cost me anything. The boss just said, "You need to get out of camp here, go to the Taj Mahal for 4 days." And so we were looked after that way, but we didn't have any money.
Yeah.
But the other guys, they got paid money, but they didn't get any trips. They didn't go.
That's the offset.
So we go visit those guys, and they'd kind of like treat us to beer and marijuana and stuff like that, and because that's what you do, and it's, you know, because we were also just in the town Rishikesh where the Beatles went to meet the Maharaja or whatever he was, and so it's full of people, bunch of hippies everywhere. And so, yeah, so we would go off and do, that's what everybody did. And it was really cool, really, really cool. So I did that. What else did I do? And then I had a girlfriend at the time, and she was a raft guide, but she wanted to go home and get a career and go to college and get a proper job and all that sort of stuff. And
she was over the dirtbag life?
Kind of, but not really. She was pretty cool,
Yeah.
cool woman. And we did climbing and kayaking together and all that sort of stuff. We had a great time, and but she wanted to go back home. She hadn't got the bug for kayaking like I had.
Not like you.
Yeah, so I tried to go back home and settle down and do life with her, and failed absolutely miserably.
Yeah.
We were living in Manchester.
Okay.
Which is just a industrial city. And I couldn't handle it. So we stayed together. I got a job in Scotland working at one of these outdoor centres. So I would travel up there for the week and come back down to Manchester for the weekend. And we did that for a couple of years. And then I decided I can't do this anymore. I'm going to become a teacher. So I got into college to become an elementary school teacher, a primary teacher. And I basically blagged myself into the college. I was at the interview for the college in Sheffield, and the guy who was running the interview says, we're not sure. And I talked him into it. And I quit the course after 2 weeks.
Oh no. After all that negotiating, you talked yourself in, and then 2 weeks, Bruce?
I was going, I'm going to do this. And I was like, I can't do this. This is like, no. So I basically ran away, and left Manchester. Relationship was over. I went back to Austria. It was like, I don't know what to do. It was like the middle of the summer, so I called up Austria and went, Andy, my old boss, is, can I have a job? And he went, you? Yeah, sure. So I went off to Austria to finish off the season. Came back home, got a job working in social work with kids, taking them out and trying to, do activities. I ended up taking kids out hill walking and doing the outdoor stuff, but in a different setting. And I did that for 2 years, and then I went, I can't do that.
Can't do this anymore.
I got a job running an outdoor centre, mostly had a side business of rafting. So the guy hired me to look after the rafting stuff, but use my other background to look after the instructors who were taking elementary school kids out doing various outdoor activities. And so I did that for a year, and then went, my buddy Dougie, when I was living in Manchester, but doing that outdoor thing up in Scotland, Dougie was working there as well. I got him a job doing that because he was just back from Africa, from the Zambezi. And so he said, I can't do that anymore. So he came back to Britain and says, because we'd done the college course, we had the same background, and they were looking for people. So Dougie Arnott, him. And then our other buddy Johnny, who'd been in the Zambezi with Dougie, was back in Scotland as well. He'd gone, I can't do this anymore. Came back to Scotland, and he was working for one of the electricity companies, and he's going, fuck it. So he made money, and he went, I'm going to Nepal.
Nice.
And
so funny.
Dougie said, Johnny, can I come with you? And he went, yeah.
Sure.
And then Dougie told me, and I phoned up Johnny and went, hey, can I come too? So Johnny thankfully said he was doing a private trip. He wanted to take his girlfriend trekking, but he wanted to do some other things on his own before that. So we went off to Nepal for 2 months. Dougie and I both, our jobs gave us the time off, paid time off for 2 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
2 months paid?
Yeah,
Wow.
because they wanted people who still did stuff to teach kids how to do
Makes
stuff.
sense. They want you to have the real world experience.
Yeah.
Nice.
So we went, we turned up in Nepal with all our stuff, and there's no water in the rivers because it's still, this was in, that was in January or beginning of February or something like that. So it's still kind of snowing in the mountains. It's not quite spring. It's about to be spring. So the snow melt is just about to arrive. We got there just a little bit too early. So we went for a walk for 12 days to Everest Base Camp.
Nice.
And there's this mecca of a river called the Dud Kosi, which is the river that flows off of Everest through Nepal. And it's this famous kayakers from Britain in the late 70s did this descent of this river. And for the 1970s, it was probably the hardest thing anybody could have ever dreamed up for kayaking. I mean, this river is steep, and the skill level and the equipment level was so basic. But anyway, there's this famous movie about it. And it was one of the things that was like, oh, it's so amazing. These guys are awesome. And we were there. And the trek to Everest Base Camp follows the river. And so they're like, oh, I remember this spot from the movie.
What's the name of the movie?
The Did Cozy.
Okay.
It's on YouTube. I'll see if I can send you the link. Famous adventure photographer called Dickinson is the guy. He was, didn't win Oscars, but he was one of those high filmmakers and did outdoor stuff. So he filmed it all. This is massive, and they were sponsored by Smirnoff vodka and all sorts of things. And anyway, one of the boats gets wrecked. All the boats get wrecked, but there's one in particular gets wrecked, and there's a monastery there called the Tangbochi, which is where all the mountaineers go there, and they get blessed by the local lama, not the Dalai Lama, but the lama of the monastery blesses them. There's all the white silk scarves and everything, and that's where everybody goes. And that's where these guys went as well, but they left one of their wrecked kayaks there. So we went in search of this wrecked kayak from 40 years earlier.
Wow.
There was a rumor it was used as a chicken coop at the monastery, and of course it's not there. It doesn't exist.
Yeah. Just the lore of it.
Yeah, the monks basically ignored us and thought we were stupid. But we went there and we did all that sort of stuff, and we just had a blast. And then, so we spent those 2 weeks walking. Then we get back to Kathmandu, and the rivers are running. So we get the gear and we head off and we go kayaking for the rest of the 6 weeks or whatever. We just like paddled every day and all sorts of stuff. Oh, really, really good stuff. Skinny dipping by full moon and on the Tibetan border and all sorts of stuff. Yeah. Teaching Johnny. So Johnny's travelled, but he hasn't travelled in India and Nepal. And it's like, I told him, this is going to be different, Johnny. Really different. And he's a pretty tough guy. He taught me during that trip, we ran out of money at a certain stage. And I was like, what are we going to do? We were in the middle of nowhere, and we wanted to get to another town called Pokhara and just chill out there for a few days and get our act together to go do what we were doing next. We had no money. And it was like, what are we going to do? And Johnny's like, doesn't matter, Bruce. It all works out in the end.
It's all fine.
And it did. And we got on a bus, and Doogie did the talking. He went, we don't have any money. We'll get you the money when we get to Pokhara. We'll go to the bank and we'll pay you. So it took like a day to get to Pokhara, and we get off in the middle of the night, and Johnny does some more talking. He goes to this hotel guy, and everybody's looking for deals over there. And he goes, we'll stay at your hotel. Don't have any money right now. Can you pay for a bus ticket? And then we'll give you the money in the morning when we get to the bank. The hotel goes, sure. No problem. Pays him. We go off to the hotel. And then we go to the bank and put it on credit cards, take out the money. There you go. I was like, oh, Johnny, awesome. Yeah,
You're
it doesn't
right.
work out in the end. Yeah.
Oh my
But
gosh.
anyway, there was other sides of him where he panics, and me and Dougie are going, oh, just chill
It's
out.
fine.
Yeah.
It'll all work out.
So we're on a bus, the first bus that he's been on, and I know, but I've been on buses like this because I was in India, and I'd also been on that India trip. Me and Ash did 2 weeks in Nepal just going kayaking as well. So we'd been here, and we're on a bus on the edge of a cliff, and they go fast. They don't slow down. And Johnny's in the seat, tell them to slow down. Tell them to slow down. And they have a conductor. He takes the money, and we're tell him to slow down. He's not going to slow down, Johnny. He's not going to do it. He's not going to listen to
This is what they
anything you're
do.
going to say. Yeah, this is what they do. So he gets up and he talks to him. And the conductor, he just burst out laughing. And Johnny
He's like,
comes
who's
back.
this guy?
Yes.
Sit down.
Johnny's like, oh my God. He's just sitting there for the rest of the trip.
Just close your eyes. and hold on.
About a week later, he just gets used to the whole thing. It all works out in the end. We're in our kayaks, sitting in our kayaks on the roof of a bus, holding onto the rails because we haven't even tied them down. And Johnny's laughing his head off, going, "This is hilarious."
Finally used to it.
Yeah. It all works out in the end. It all works out. Yeah, that was good. So we did trips
wild.
like yeah, and that was good. And we just stayed in like 2 months of being the dirtbags, of just like staying in hostels and hotels,
Bumming around.
bumping into other kayakers and rafters that we'd met in other places around the world, just there, because these places just attract the same people to do exactly the same things. Yeah, it's quite cool. Oh yeah,
And this-
another. Yeah, I'm just getting stories now. I don't know if do you want
No,
do you
it's
want to talk
great.
about anything in particular?
No, this is great. Keep rolling. I love it.
So, in Kathmandu, there was this famous raft company run by a New Zealand guy called Dave Allardyce, who's dead now, unfortunately. A kind of like guru of rafting and kayaking in Nepal. One of the first guys to go there and set things up and explore rivers and bring people to Nepal to do that sort of stuff. So we rented the kayaks off of him, And that's who the guy who drove who drove
Drove the
while we
bus.
were going to ski. So Rob worked for Dave, so that we had that connection as well. So he'd come from India and now gone to Nepal, and I'd come from India and now gone to Nepal. Hey, Rob, how are you? So we got the connections that way, and so the security guard at Ultimate Descent's office, we were there every day just talking garbage and drinking coffee in the coffee shop next door and all that sort of stuff. And so the security guard says, hey, we got talking to him a few times. He's a nice guy. He thought I was good. I want to invite you to my house. Okay. So we go to his house, and he has a sister.
Oh,
He's trying her to introduce us to one or of the three of us. It's like, you like my sister? She's a very
You
good
like
cook.
yeah.
It's like, oh,
Oh
I was just
no.
like, okay. Nobody said yes. But it was like, it was
Shocking.
yeah, we went to a part of town. It's like no tourists go there. It's like you can see, but it's like the difference between. So the tourist part of Kathmandu is called Tamil, and that's where when they had the earthquake there about 10 years ago, and they talked about this monastery that was starting to collapse and stuff because of the massive earthquake. That's Tamil, and it's full of restaurants and bars and gifts and souvenirs everywhere, and it looks really nice. But you go outside of that, and that's where everybody lives, and it's totally different. It's like the houses are basic. People live in one or two rooms with their whole family, that sort of stuff. So you get to see how the real world lives when tourists aren't around spending money. And I got that when I was in India as well, because I was working with local people. So it was myself and Ashley, who were the two foreigners in a company of 30 or 40 people. And we had cooks, and we had drivers, other raft guides that were local Indians and stuff like that as well. And they lived in the local town of Rishikesh, or some of them lived in their farms in the hills. And I got invited to go visit one of the guys who got to know pretty well, and it was like a 2-hour walk up a muddy path out into the hills, through the paddy fields, into a grass hut. And you're cooking off a kerosene stove on a mud floor. And that was, I can't remember how many people lived in there, but there was quite a few. And you go see that. But they would give you stuff. So like they cooked me food that they didn't have to. That was their food. They worked really hard. And you get to see what it's really like. And so when I went away to do stuff, I liked to see a little bit of that. I was still a Western tourist, even though I might have been working there, not earning what I would consider a lot of money, but I was still earning a ton more than these guys were. So my lifestyle was totally different. But it's good to at least get a taste of that stuff. There were other guys who were much into it, and they would not go out to bars and not go out to restaurants, and they would like go and live in the part of town where the tourists aren't. They would rent a room or whatever from somebody over there and be there, and they would eat locally and all that sort of stuff as well. So some guys would do that sort of stuff because they would go like, well, who am I and what am I doing in this country if I can't be like that and just live this hedonistic kind of lifestyle, which is what you do. And when I worked in Uganda on the Nile, which is another few years later, that was before I came to America and worked that was in 2006. I was in Uganda, and I started working at River's Edge, and it was a few years later, 2013. But I was in Uganda, and I got paid $50 a day, 50 US. I'd come from working in Canada. I wouldn't get out of bed for $50 a day for $50. I'd be earning $100 just for 4 hours work on on a half-day trip. But there was like $50 a day. And I was still earning way more. The local guys who were raft guides were getting paid $30 a day, and I was on 50. And my responsibilities weren't that much more. But they wanted Europeans there just in case, even though the local guys, some of the local guys were a little bit iffy, but most of them were really switched on and knew what they were doing, but they were still getting paid less. But they always had one European on every raft trip. They'd be the nominal trip leader sort of thing. And that's why they justified us getting paid more. But I worked in 5 months, I worked 50 days, and I lived like a king.
Yeah.
I could buy any amount of food that I wanted to do, and I could go on trips if I wanted to go on trips. And live like a king. And so there's that Baz is like, well, who the hell, who are you in this country? When you got these people who are like this, and then you're here and you're doing this. And I remember having a conversation with one of the guys, one of the barmen, really intelligent guy, really well read, Ugandan, and you gotta have a conversation with him about anything. And he's a barman. He's one of the, getting paid pretty well, and he'd supported his whole extended family. And he was looking at all these tourists coming here. Lots of young people going rafting, yeehaw, adrenaline sport, and the company had a bar and a campsite, and people would just get ridiculously drunk all night, every night, just doing stupid drunk stuff. And he would go, "Is it like this where you come from?" And he'd go, "No." This is, people don't live like this when they're at home. This is because they can
vacation.
Yeah. And there's people on, they're on massive extended vacations because it's so cheap to travel in Africa. People are on overland truck trips, and we took those overlanders, rafters. They stayed at the campsite a couple of nights, went rafting, spent all the money in the bar. These guys are traveling for like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months.
Wow.
Not working.
They can make it that long.
Just spending their money. And all these people there are just going, how wealthy are you?
Yeah.
How much money do you have that you don't have to work?
Right, for that long, for months and months.
Yeah. And it's just like, well, make enough money that you can come here for this amount of time. But eventually they're all going to have to go home and start work again.
Yeah, right. It's kind of like Brucey jumping around back and forth.
Yeah.
Oh, funny.
So it's nice to be a dirtbag, but then I think you kind of need to keep your head straight, or else you do.
Yeah.
Like some of the guys I worked with, absolutely ridiculous stuff, just because they can get away with it. And no matter where I've been, the color of my skin has opened doors.
Yeah, of course.
It's not about who I am or what I do. It's the color of my skin that will open doors. Like when I was in India rafting, but the only people who can go rafting in India are pretty wealthy people.
Yeah.
2 occasions that really spring to mind because they left an impression. One was the head of British Airways in India. So British Airways, one of the biggest air companies in the world. He came rafting with us. He had a chauffeur driver and he had his son. And he was coming rafting with us. And or the way we went rafting, we'd have trucks full of gear. We'd drive to the start of the river, get all the gear ready, and the customers would arrive, step off some sort of tourist bus transport. And this guy said, "I'm not getting on the bus. I'm taking my chauffeur. Bruce, you want to jump in with me?" And I was like, "Hell yeah." Well, he's in the chauffeur driven till they were right.
Not saying
And
no
it
to
was
that.
like, yeah. And it was like, only me, because I was the white guy on that trip.
Yeah.
Not anybody else, not the local guy, not the head raft
Just
guy.
the white guy.
He was a Nepalese guy. Yeah, not the owner of the company, white guy. And then there was another time, we're on the camp, we're having breakfast. It's all outdoor, big tent, breakfast all catered for. And this guy walks up and picks up a jar of jelly to put in his toast. Local Indian guy. And obviously wealthy because he's going rafting with his whole family. And he goes, "Oh, I love this jelly." He goes, "Yeah, it's a nice flavour." He went, "No, I love it because I own the company."
Oh,
End of the trip, he's like, "Hey, you want to come and visit? When you're in Delhi, you must stop in and visit at our
yeah.
house." Nobody else got invited, just the white
Just
guy.
Bruce. Just the
Just
white guy.
White guy. Yeah,
Dang.
yeah. Now the same in all those countries.
Yeah.
It's the white guy. And then when you come here, North America, the Scottish guy.
Yeah.
You can
Look
come
at you.
visit.
You got what?
Not all you Americans and not all you Canadians.
In this
Scottish
lifetime,
guy.
Bruce, your luck. Scottish white guy.
Yeah.
You old dirtbag.
Yeah. If you went abroad, you'd be like, "I'm the American. Yes, you
The
can
American
come.
girl. You can
Yes,
come.
you come. Yes."
Yeah. Come on. We'll see about that. I've not been to Nepal. I've not been to India. I've thought about it. Maybe
You
someday.
you should go. Yeah.
I should.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It'll be on the list at some point. Yeah.
India will open your eyes.
Oh, yeah. My
Oh.
brother has been, and yeah,
Did he
he's
like
talked
it?
about it
or
a few times.
Not so much.
I don't think so much. I think he was like happy to go and to experience it. But yeah, I think it was an eye opener.
It's a love-hate relationship. And you love it or
Yeah,
hate
it
it.
sounds
There
like
is
it.
no middle ground. But no matter what you do, it'll put some stuff into perspective. That's what I found.
for
It's
sure.
like, holy shit. Yeah, I am
Yeah.
a lucky human being.
Yeah.
And
that we got
sometimes
this.
it's like, particularly working in the school system, because we don't get paid an awful lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
I would get a little bit down with how much money I wasn't earning. I don't have a nice car. I don't have. Well, I've got my own house now, but then I didn't have my own house, and it was like I just. Sometimes I'd wake up in the morning going, "You know what, Bruce? You're still in the top 1% of the entire planet.
Yeah.
99% of the people around don't have what you can have.
Yeah, not
with
even close.
as little as you think you've got. Yeah,
Right.
Nowhere near close. Nowhere near
Right.
close. And I think
Yeah, our
that's
perspective of what's reality versus what is true reality of how the rest of the world lives is very
Yeah.
skewed.
Yeah, and I think that it's like, doing outdoor stuff and outdoor education is great for personal growth and development because you're put into situations that just the activities themselves are tough. Just that the environment that you're in and the things that you have to do that activity, it's like when you're trekking and hiking and camping, no matter where you are, mountains or deserts or whatever it is, you've got to carry everything with you, and you've got to make everything that you need. You need to put up your own shelter. You need to get your stove ready. You need to carry that food. You need to somehow figure out where you're going to get your water from, and kind of make it. You've got to filter it yourself, and you've got to do all of those things. And it kind of like puts everything down into that basic thing where you're just like, this is existence. Everything else outside of this is kind of a bonus. And we are so lucky in the society that we live in. Let's just call it the Western world. It's like, it's all there. And you can pretty much get everything that you need just by stepping out the door and going into a store or whatever,
Yeah.
And
It's like kids that think fruits and vegetables, where do you get those? Well, just the store. Well, where do they grow? Where does the store get them?
Yeah.
Right. Or like just you turn a faucet on and clean water comes out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's something about North America as well that adds on another thing. Is like, I'm not into guns. I'm not a hunter. I've never killed anything for myself for my own food. But I understand the people who are like real hunters. And where I work in the warehouse, guys are pretty down to earth. And a lot of them hunt and fish. And they hunt and fish to... Well, it is kind of a luxury because you got to pay for permits and stuff like that. But they do it for the food. So they make meat. They have their own smokers. They can make the sausages and all that sort of stuff. That's what they go hunting for, and that's what they turn all that into. It's not a trophy.
Yeah. And they freeze it up for the winter, and they have it feeds their family for 6 months.
Yeah, and there's that aspect to doing all of that as well. I just never been able to go. I was offered the chance to kill a chicken in India.
Yeah.
I went, I'll hold the legs. I still didn't even like that experience. It was like, it was
how much
chicken.
of this do I want to, at what level do I want to participate?
Yes. And I'm going, maybe I should be vegetarian.
That'll get you thinking.
Yeah. So all this the outdoors puts life into perspective, or helps you, to go out there.
It clears out all the distractions and kind of all the nonsense, right?
Yes, it does.
When you're living at that basic of a level, you don't have to think about any of, well, you do, like you said, you have to think about your shelter and your water and your food and all of that. But if that's all you're having to think about, it clears out all the other distractions. I don't have my big TV where I'm sitting around trying to fill my time in my brain with YouTube videos or music or whatever it is. I'm just left with my thoughts and the outdoor TV that is the fire that maybe we have, or the removing the screen and the distractions, and now you and I actually have to like talk about life and things that maybe are actually interesting versus we're just sitting, we're two robots that are just being distracted by all this bullshit.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. You actually got to
And
interact and talk about real things, and there's no escape from it either. So you can't just walk off in a huff and go, oh, I just don't agree with you. You're garbage. I just don't agree. I'm making a cup of tea, by the way.
All good. You're all good.
Because I'm British.
Because you're British.
I do like
cuppa.
a cup of tea.
Do you like a cuppa? A good cuppa.
Lovely in the morning.
My
means that I will change my entire life just to go somewhere where I can do those things. It's all quieted down now because, I'm a dad and stuff like that. I have way more responsibilities that are way more important.
Yeah.
But I still got to be connected. And the last trip I did, I was up at Sawbill Lake in the Boundary Waters. And the first night I was camping there, it was like, oh, there it is. There was just the feeling of where I was and what it did to me in the inside psychologically, and it was like, oh, this is why I do it. This is what it's all about.
Yeah, the Boundary Waters is so special too. Have you been up there a lot?
I wouldn't say a lot. I would say a few times. So I haven't gone up there nearly as many times as I should with the river. But it's just a matter of his school and when I can get time off. But we did a week up there a couple of years ago, and it was just beautiful. And he had a great time. But he goes every year with community education. There's that education side again. So he goes up. So he's going again this year for his fourth one.
Nice. Good for him.
Yeah,
He's only 16.
For a whole week. Yeah. So he loves it.
I was going to say, does he love it as much as his old dad, being outside and adventuring?
No, he hasn't got the bug.
Okay,
but he definitely, yes, exactly. But he definitely enjoys it. Yeah, he goes all the scout camp trips. He goes on that, and he goes out. He wants to do. Yeah, he's from when you met him when he was really little. Now he plans things. So he's got into road biking a little bit. So he's got plans to do road biking, and he got into hiking last year because they did a scout trip of 10 days in the Rockies hiking in the Rockies, and he loves that. So we did a few practice hikes, and now he's talking about because he's got his driver license now. Him and a few buddies are going, we want to go to Alaska hiking.
Hey, nice.
Like, okay, there we go. Yeah. And the canoeing thing, he likes canoeing and floating on rivers. So he's worked as a raft guide for a day. We trained him up and got him raft guiding up in the St. Louis River in Duluth, and he wants to do more of that this year.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, so he's kind of getting there, and he wants to do stuff. But yeah, we would like to do more. So I want to get up to the boundary waters at least once a year.
Yeah.
And I want to go skiing in a mountain or something at least once a year if I can as
Proper
well.
skiing.
Yeah.
Yeah, not Highland Hills skiing.
Yeah, that's good for practice.
Yeah,
It's good for
something
having
in
a
your
laugh.
backyard. Yeah.
It's good for having a laugh, because part of the thing is like a lot of the things, the places I've been and done, it's with people.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I am an old curmudgeon and I don't really put up with crap from other people very often, you know, if you're talking rubbish, I will tell you. A lot of it is the people that you're with and doing
Mm-hmm.
with. I do a lot of stuff on my own now because I can't find people that I want to go with, or I'm just too lazy to put myself out there. But the people that you're with and that side of it is really important. And that's that education side as well, where it comes to young people. It's like you have to go out there and put up with people as well as do all of that self-sufficiency thing as well. You've also got to learn how to put up with people,
Right.
and accept people. Or if you don't accept them, still be able to deal with them, sort of thing, isn't it?
Right. Exactly. Well, that's what makes a lot of your trips really awesome too, is going with friends when you're young and running around with friends and having the best time, you know.
Yeah. And also it makes it easier to put up with the trials that you go through there as well. Yeah. Because it's hard work. I did one big trip, really big adventurous trip on my own. The first couple of days were a nightmare, and it would have been a lot easier if there was somebody else there. If Johnny was there, just to go, it's going to be okay, Bruce.
Yeah.
It's
It
okay.
made a huge difference.
Yeah. I just lost control of perspective, and I was ready to throw everything in the river and just say that something bad happened as an excuse just to leave.
And leave. Yeah. See you.
Like, right. But people are important.
Yeah, they are.
Going out and doing all of these things.
Now as River's getting older, he's 16. He's going to be out of the house, graduated in a couple years. What's next, Bruce? Any thoughts of
So I
quitting the job? Or I know you said you have a house, so that's a responsibility, but houses can be sold.
Yes, or rented out or whatever.
rented out.
You know. That,
Yep.
I have, let's call it a little black book of things.
Plans.
I want to do stuff. So I'm going to 5.5 years if things work out. Because the reason why I'm doing the job is healthcare and pension.
Yep.
All of which I don't have to contribute, but I get a good standard of one. So I've got 5.5 years,
Okay.
and I can pick up a reasonable pension.
Okay.
If I'd been there for 40 years, I'd be laughing all the way to the bank. But then I would be here talking about stuff.
Yeah, exactly. That's the trade-off. I think I would have taken your route that you chose versus stayed in some job for 40 years and then, you know.
I don't have
you'd have
regrets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
And I think
I wouldn't either if with all these stories. I mean, I've got stories of my own, not
of
quite
course
as wild as dead bodies in India, but
yeah.
you know.
Well,
All right,
but
so 5.5
maybe you've
years.
got more stories to come, though. So I would have some advice for
absolutely.
you.
Yes. After your plan,
Okay.
then you tell me the advice that you have for the 20-somethings and the 30-somethings still. Yes, I got a lot of time.
Right. So my plans are, so I thought of another one just last week, actually, which
Nice.
is like the island that I grew up on. I want to kayak round it.
Oh, that's cool. How long would that
Yes.
take?
It's not that big an island. It's about 80 miles long.
Okay.
So, but circumnavigate, probably a couple of weeks, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not too bad.
Yeah, it depends on the weather. The weather up there is pretty terrible.
Shite. Yeah.
Yes, you get wind blowing on the beach for a week, and it's
Yep.
probably going to rain horizontally at you for that whole time as well.
You won't know where it's coming from. Up, down, over.
Yes, but lots of beautiful beaches to camp on. So I would like to do that. And then most of the stuff involves rivers. So doing just stupid long river trips, like, the Mississippi from Itasca and the Missouri source. Do both of those. The Columbia.
Like all the way through? You want to go all the way to the Gulf? It's
Yeah.
not the Gulf of America. Gulf of Mexico. Jesus Christ.
I can't say
cool.
anything because I'm not a citizen yet.
Jesus Christ. Say whatever you want. Fuck that guy. I had a good friend. My friend Rob Warner did that. If you've got, if you want to be, you don't need to be in touch with him. You're a pro, but
I get to be in touch with
if
him.
you want to be connected with him,
Yeah.
really cool guy. I'll connect you. He did it
Okay,
a
then.
while ago, maybe 10 years ago,
Yeah.
maybe more. Yep.
Yeah, I don't imagine much change. He's probably got lots of good advice. So
Yeah.
I would like,
Yep.
I would like to do that. I'm not sure if that's going to be the starting point or just another thing. But things like the Columbia River and take the Red River up north and get into Hudson Bay, that sort of stuff.
I'm gonna have some girls. I don't know them, but somehow got connected to them on social media. There's 4 girls in their 20s that are going to, where are they going from? Lake Superior. They're gonna paddle all the way up to Hudson Bay. I'm gonna have them on the show.
Oh wow,
Yep.
cool.
I'm gonna have them on the show before they take off, and then I'm gonna catch them after their trip is done.
That'd be
So I'll
really
have them on
good.
twice. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hey, do you remember Alice, who used to work at Outward Bound?
Yes. Yep. I think she did a trip like that.
She
with
did
another-
the Missouri source all the way down with somebody else from Outward Bound as well. They did that.
Okay. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
2 of them, I think. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. So there's lots of stuff in America. I'd like to do an awful lot of that. But I want to do some of those old epic stuff, the stuff of legends. Like, I'm probably too old. I will be too old. I'd be too decrepit to do it. But the transcontinental paddle, particularly up in Canada, which several people have done, but hardly anybody has retraced the first guy who did it,
Okay.
which is Mackenzie. And he named the Mackenzie River, is named after him, because that was his first attempt to cross the North American continent. But he found the Mackenzie River instead and ended up in the Arctic. So he did it again and then went all the way across. And that was in 1792.
Whew.
Yeah.
That was a while ago.
Yeah. And there's a guy who retraced it with a birch bark canoe in the 2000s. And he wrote a book about it. And it's, oh my God, that's epic. Yeah. You're basically walking up over mountain passes in British Columbia to get to the next watershed. But yeah, to do stuff like that, I'd like to think I'm still capable of doing it when I'm that age. I've got 5 more years to go. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to do stuff. I want to do adventures, still be in the outdoors. That is part of, I don't know, part of my soul, really. I can't get away from it. I still have pictures of my adventures up on the wall, and I look at them and I go, that's so ancient. Why is that there? And I go, well, I did it. I like to be reminded of it.
Be taken back to that.
Yeah. Because and you're obviously got a bit of a rat gnawing inside of you saying that you need to go do something.
Yeah. I mean, I floated around for the better part of my 20s. I didn't really, I settled in River's Edge. What was I? I wasn't that old. 26, 27.
Yeah.
But I feel like it felt like floating around longer than I did. But then, did the abroad thing, which was nice. But yeah, I've been working solidly for, it doesn't seem like it is a long time.
Yeah.
And I've got some money in the bank, and part of me is like, is it stupid to just take off? Or I don't have a mortgage. We're in a month-to-month lease right now, so we could leave at any time. I've got my 2 dogs. But Amelia, my partner, might take off to Europe and do a semester or even a year in London for her art stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what am I gonna? I'm just gonna work my 9 to 5 and the same bullshit day to day. Or I'm not in a lease. I can pack our shit up, put it in storage, take the dogs, and just fuck off and go do whatever I want, you know?
Fuck off.
Yeah.
As soon as you
I
feel
know.
as though you can.
I can always find a job in education with as much experience as I have, the licenses that I have.
You can get
It's not
a
like
job anywhere in the world with that. Getting money that helps pay for the system that you're getting into is what I think.
Yeah.
Like, you know, doctors, lawyers, social workers, they all have to kind of do it and relicense. But no, you've got skills and you're super intelligent so that you can go and do stuff anywhere.
Yeah.
When I left Scotland to come to North America, I was your age, and I had nothing in the bank, and I had two cargo bags of one of clothes and one of paddling gear. That's all I had.
Paddling gear. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've jumped around with jobs, but I've got my teaching pension in Minnesota, and then I've got my one here in New York, and they'll just sit there. It's not like they're going to disappear. So they'll sit there and I'll figure out what to do with it when I figure out what to do with it. But then I have my own personal retirements that I've been saving and pumping up for many years, and I don't have any debt. I paid off all my school debt.
You're in a perfect
I don't have a car
position.
loan. I bought a like shitty RAV4 last summer when I was back in Minnesota for $3,000 cash.
And it's still going?
Runs like a dream. It's got like 217,000 miles on it, but everyone's like, it's going to break down. I'm like, no, it's not.
No,
I'm like, what are you talking about? No, it's not. This thing's got probably another 100 in it, I bet.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know.
Cool.
The stars are aligning. I'm just looking for excuses, probably not to. I'm
not going to be a good excuse for you. My advice would be go. Yeah, go
This is why I'm like, I'm just going to ask Bruce because I know what he's going to say, and I just need to be like.
I will. What is it? Give you positive feedback on the idea of going. Yeah, I will reinforce.
If I looked, the dirtbaggery. Yeah, reinforce the dirtbaggedness.
Because I don't regret.
Right.
What I've done. In fact, I think everybody should travel. It just depends on how long for. I think everybody should go see all that stuff that we talked about for the reasons that we talked about.
Right.
And if you can go for longer, you never know where you're going to end up. I never thought I'd end up in America. And I'm glad, despite other things about America, I'm glad I'm not where I grew up. I'm glad I've traveled. I'm glad I've ended up where I've ended up. And doing what I don't consider what I do as a job what I do. I'm glad I'm a dad. I'm glad I've got a family. I never thought I would because of what I did, but I'm really glad that I did now. But I also still want to carry on with all the other things that I did. I don't regret any of those things. I think it's. I'm not a great human being at all. I have a lot of flaws. But I hate to think what I would be if I hadn't done that. Oh my God, I would have turned out like my dad. As much as I love my dad, oh my God, he was a pain in the ass.
Yeah, same.
He wasn't very good at controlling his emotions at all.
Same. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, it's a no-brainer, Danielle.
Yeah, you're right. All right, Bruce, you've maybe convinced me.
Find the cheapest ticket that you can that allows you to carry the most stuff as possible. Go somewhere. Yeah.
I got to drop the dogs off somewhere, but I bet my mom would take them. Plus, I just want to get in my car and drive west. I haven't been out west for a while. My family's all out there.
Yeah.
So we'll start there, and then maybe I can convince somebody to.
Where did your folks
take
move
the dogs
to?
for a couple weeks, and I can go somewhere.
Yeah. Where did your folks move to? Did they go to Arizona or something?
Yeah, they've been in Arizona for their like 6-month winter for a while. But they were back and forth between Minnesota and Arizona, and then they ended up moving to Idaho for the summers. Yeah, beautiful area, not such beautiful people. So, yikes! But
They haven't gone to Coeur d'Alene or something like that, have they?
they're right north of Coeur d'Alene. Yep.
Oh, they're
So-
are they at the ferry? What's the name of that place?
Not
No,
sure.
That's a different route.
They're in
So
Rathdrum,
okay.
Idaho. It's just not far at all from
Yeah.
Coeur d'Alene. So really pretty area.
The Kicking Horse River is straight north of there, about 4 or 5 hours. Yeah.
It's a beautiful country.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is. Yeah, I used to drive through there
So-
to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got to go bring the dogs out and hang out in the mountains and
Oh God, yeah, yeah.
meet some dirtbags, do some interviews.
There's a few dirt bags around there. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's just a few.
Yeah.
So we'll see what I can find.
Have you
Anyway.
got a list of stuff that you want to do? Not just in
No, I
Idaho,
should.
but
You've
just stuff
inspired
to do.
me now to. I have a little black book actually that I just have been writing some podcast notes and things in. But you've inspired me to. And I make lists all the time, and used to make lists of things all the time, or just run into adventures and just be like, hey, yeah, let's go do that. So I would go and do it. But I should put a list together.
Can I
actually
recommend
think
go
about-
for a trek in the Himalayas? Disappear in the mountains for like 2 weeks. It's
Yeah,
all set up. It's all set up for people to do that. You just
Yeah.
pack a bag and walk.
And just go. Yeah.
Yeah.
I should.
it's just-
He's a big paddler. My friend Corey, I don't know if you know him, Corey Mooney.
Yes.
You
I
know
know
Corey.
Corey
I was
Mooney.
going to say, how do you
Yes.
not know Corey Mooney? I'm
He's
like, you have to.
famous.
I know. I'm like, you have to know Corey Mooney somehow. So I used to
Uh-huh.
work with Corey at the department at Thistledew.
Okay.
That's how we met. And then, yeah, Corey's just a dirtbag. But he's a paddling freak.
Yes, he is.
He was just in Nepal. I'm gonna have him on the show. I want to get him this summer. I'm gonna have him. I'm gonna be
Yeah, I
back
think
in
I
Minnesota
saw-
for a little bit.
Because I guide every once in a while rafts up near Duluth, so he's on that
Yep.
river quite regularly. He works
all
for
the
them
time.
sometimes as well. So
Yeah.
I bumped into him. I met him just before. I don't think I've seen him since he got back from the Nepalese trip, but I remember him saying he was going. And yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
So he'll have some fresh stuff to talk about with that, and I'm gonna try to catch him and do like I want to record in front of a fire and drink a bunch of PBRs and whiskey with Corey for like
how
3
come
hours.
he gets that special treat?
Yeah. Okay. When I'm back, Bruce, you can come. You're invited
Okay.
to Corey's episode.
Okay,
It'll
maybe
be a
I should invite
crossover
you
episode.
out here. I live in Glencoe.
I was gonna say, aren't you in Glencoe? You bought a house.
I'm in Glencoe. Yeah, I'm in Scotland.
I'm in Scotland.
I got a fire pit. You can come out here. I'll send
We'll
you
do
an
our
address.
second. We'll do our second episode in front of the fire. I gotta figure out the the microphone setup, but I think if we had an extension cord and a plug somehow, we could figure it out,
Yeah.
and it would be pretty cool. I want to start to do some filming, in front of a fire. I think it'd be cool.
Considering what you're talking about, or getting people to talk about, it'd be the perfect setting to go do it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think people would like that aesthetic too. Not that I care that much about what people like, but if I can get enough people to here's why I would care about it. If I can get enough people to care about it and to like to listen to the content, then it could pay for my life. What could be cooler than going and adventuring on my own and then just talking to people about their adventures, and that's how you make a living. Like, to me, there's
think you
not
found
a
your
cooler
hook.
job. I
I
think
think you
there's
just
not a
found your
cooler.
hook.
Yeah, I think there's not a cooler job in the world than that.
No. Yeah. Now you got it.
Yeah. I hope so. We'll see if people want to like pay for it though. Not pay for it, but there's this thing called Patreon that a lot of content
Yes.
people are using now in the last however many years. And so it's like, hey, if you want to pay $5 a month, you like listening to this stuff or you like the content, and people would pay, hey, yeah, I'd be like, yep, pay $5 a month. You don't notice it's gone. It's not even half of what Netflix costs a month. So,
Yeah. I think,
Yeah.
yeah. Why the hell not? There's an idea.
yeah, why the hell not?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
That'd be brilliant.
Anyway.
I
Yeah.
look forward to seeing you on Patreon then. Maybe I should just subscribe.
You should subscribe. Help pay for my life, Bruce. $5 a month. That'd be great. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
I could live vicariously through you.
That's sort of the idea too. People that have a full-time job and can't fuck off to the woods or talk to their buddies all the time, just listen to episodes and
Yeah. Or maybe
Yeah.
just motivate people to get out there as well and start doing it.
that as well. That is also part of it. So,
Yeah.
hey, it was good to catch up with you.
Awesome,
It's been too
Danielle.
long.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Yes.
Really, really
We-
fun.
We should go
Let's
for
do
a
it
drink
again.
sometime.
Yeah, I'll be back in Minnesota for I don't know how long, at least a couple weeks. I'm gonna do a long bike ride across the state of Iowa again this summer. Ragbri. I did it last summer for the first time. Had a blast.
Okay.
I think I'm gonna do it again. So you start on the Missouri River side of Iowa,
Okay.
and then you go across the state from west to east. You end at the Mississippi.
Oh.
They change the route every year, but you stop at little towns in between the overnight towns.
Uh-huh.
It's 7 days long. It's literally like a carnival on wheels. There's people that rollerblade it, that unicycle it, that most people cycle it. They bike it.
Unicycle it?
Yeah,
God, that'd be hard work.
yeah, it'd be crazy. But I ran into one of the guys that was on a unicycle, or he's on this weird carnival bike. But yeah, it's like a big party for a week. But it's one of those events that's the best of humanity comes out, and you're reminded that there are really cool, beautiful, awesome people in the world. Yeah, it's one of those events. So I'll be back in the Midwest for that, and then definitely in Minnesota for 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay.
But yeah, when I'm back, let's have a drink. Maybe we'll
Yes.
do part 2 of Bruce. Bruce
Oh,
Lowe.
no, you got it all. You got it all. I'd just be rehashing
No,
more
I don't
old
think I have
stories.
I don't think I have the half of it. So we didn't even get into Canada or anything. But
Yeah, we
so,
didn't.
Next
do that.
time.
Yeah.
Next time. We got to save
Hey,
some of it.
Okay then.
So
I'll see if I can dust some more stories off the bat
Yep.
for you.
get ready for
Yeah.
round 2 this summer. It's Fire Pit in Glencoe, Minnesota.
Yes.
Part 2.
Or wherever you are, travel to you.
Yeah,
And do
maybe
something.
yeah, or maybe it's that. Maybe some campsite out in the Wind River Range or something.
Yeah. Just try to keep in touch. It'd be nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
likewise.
You
Okay.
you kept me sane at REA.
Yeah,
I think I
likewise.
went nuts after you left.
All right,
yeah.
Bruce. We'll
You
keep
take
in
care,
touch.
Danielle.
All
yeah.
right, you too. It was
Plan
really good
stuff.
catching up.
Yes,
Yep,
it was.
I will. I'm gonna go get my little black book right now.
All right.
Send me those
Adios.
videos too.
I will. Yeah, I got to track him down. I haven't seen them for a while, but yeah, I'll track him down and send them to you.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Bruce.
Bye bye, Danielle. Okay.
Bye.